So you see this photo behind me? This is a behind the scenes photo of a movie called 43 Degrees North, which I am currently working on. We shot it this past autumn in the Gulf of Maine. And this cottage here is the same cottage that was used in a 1980s movie called The Whales of August, starring Lillian Gish and Bette Davis. And see this rock that this actor is sitting on? This is the same rock that actor Vincent Price was on in The Whales of August when he went fishing. This is Vincent Price from The Whales of August fishing in that same spot. Here's another view of Vincent Price, and he's on that rock. And it's the same angle. And you can see on the porch, there's an extension of the roof of the porch that kind of extends towards the end of the peninsula there. That extension is no longer there. As you can see, that side kind of over there is no longer there. This is a scene between the main actress and the main actor on that side of the porch without the roof. And that was a hard scene to film. This is a shot from The Whales of August at the end of the peninsula. And that's Bette Davis and Lillian Gish looking out at the bay from the end of the peninsula. This is that same peninsula kind of today, or this past autumn when I was filming. That was the closest a lobster boat had come to the shore on this while we were there, and I just thought it was really interesting. So I just decided to take this picture. And this was our last day on the island. This one cage here was all of our production freight. My camera is of course separate, and my bag with the hard drives is separate. I carried those out myself, but everything else got shipped out by freight, and it all fit into that one tiny cage, which the ferry people, the deckhands, they loaded that cage onto the ferry when it arrived to pick us up. We also filmed on a neighboring island, Peaks Island, and they gave us an ambulance for free, which was pretty cool. It really brought up the production value. We also filmed on the mainland. This is us filming a scene in South Portland. And this was a heartfelt, emotional scene where she tells him that she's basically got a ticking clock and it's incurable, an incurable disease. And there were people in a car that was parked in the parking lot right next to us who were watching us film, and they applauded at the end and then asked us if this was a Lifetime movie or a Hallmark movie or something. And I said, oh, I wish. That's kind of what I was going for with this, with the writing of this particular scene. Because when I write screenplays, like every scene is an exercise in something. And so this scene was an exercise in trying to write a Hallmark movie. So I really appreciate that the onlookers understood it. Okay, so this is the side of the house that no longer has the roof over the porch. So you can see he's playing guitar on the stairs there. And it doesn't have a roof, but you can see where the roof would connect. That line is a strip. That's where it should connect. But it's not natural to the historical version of the cottage, so they just decided not to put it back on there once it rotted off. That's my understanding of it anyway. This is how we got around the island. Is a friend of mine who lives on the island loaned us his golf cart, and all of our freight was put on the back there, and we had to make multiple trips the first day and on the last day. But it did have a speed governor on it, so we couldn't really joyride with it because it was just so slow. It was literally for transporting us between the cottage and the ferry landing. And this is all our stuff on the last day coming out of the cottage so we could take it to the landing. This is one of the ferries that services the Down Bay Islands, and this is the primary one that's featured in the movie. There was another one called the McCoy 2, which is a completely different model that's also featured, but I saw that one a lot less. This was the one that I mostly saw, and this is the one that's primarily featured. My lead actor, Derek, made the sign that was used as a set piece because the peninsula that we filmed on is called Pitkins Point, but we had to rename it because in the script it's supposed to say Apollo Peninsula, and he's a very good artist, and he made a sign This sign here is the sign, and it's modeled after the signage around the island. So you can see it says, "Welcome to the remote Apollo Peninsula. Private property, access by permission only, public shore access." Public shore access is my political statement. And this is an example of the sign that is down front, or where the main landing is on the island. And you can see how Derek modeled our sign after this sign. And there's a lot of signs around the island that kind of look like this. This is called Blind Alley. This is where I set up my workstation so I could dump the footage as we were shooting it. Because the camera produces so much footage, I wanted to be able to dump and transcode it and assemble it as I went. So by the time we left the island, I would be able to just power through the edit. And you'll only see this is behind the fireplace on the main level of the cottage. You'll only see the back of the fireplace twice in the movie, and that's because I avoided filming it because that's where my editing station was for most of the shoot. So this is the peninsula from the other side. So if the initial footage that I was showing you where Vincent Price was, that would have been over on the other side of the peninsula. So now we've come over the other side to what we call across the bay. This is Fisherman's Cove. And see this shack in the foreground? From what I understand, it's no longer there. My chief contact on the island has told me that the floods have taken that building. So my film is now officially dated. In the first week that I was on the island, this little boat ended up dropping anchor right off the shore there, and I was able to get some B-roll of it, though it has yet to wind up in any version of the actual movie. So I might just put it out on YouTube or something just so people can see it, because it really is it was a gorgeous ship. This is a view from the porch of the cottage, and this rock over here is the one that Vincent Price and my actor were on. And this is a semi-low tide, probably more of a medium tide, but yeah, so we were filming over there facing this way, and now we've reversed it from the porch. And this was a common view that I got. Every morning and every evening, I would document this with my film camera or my movie camera because it was just always so gorgeous at both times of the day. I was very lucky to be able to film here. My friend who lives on the island is also the caretaker, and he connected me with the owner of the cottage. And as long as I filmed in the off season and I was able to shut it down for the winter, then I could be there. And I ended up being there for 3 weeks straight up. And that island totally kicked my butt, as I've said again and again. And I ended up with like a lot of ticks and some that were on me for like a really long time, and I didn't even know because it was so cold that I was just numb the whole time. And also the cottage isn't insulated or winterized at all, and so we couldn't hold heat in. And it was a brutal shoot, but it was so worth it because I don't think I'll ever be able to film in a place like that again. We did do right by it. I took really good care of it, and I ended up making sure that the caretaker boarded it up like he was supposed to, and that the water system got drained, and that was that. When we left the island, him and his friend had showed up to do all that work. And so, again, I don't think I'll have an opportunity to film in a historic location like that again, with such a rich cinematic history. And I am forever thankful to the current owner and, of course, my friend, the caretaker of the cottage, and to the community of Cliff Island, Maine. Thank you very much. You know, I tried to make this movie back in 2020. It was a cabin in the woods story that was supposed to be done at a music camp in Virginia. And when that didn't happen in 2020, I tried again in 2021. Again, it didn't happen. And then last spring, the spring of 2023, I had this epiphany. I said, you know what, I'm from Maine, and I know people on the islands, and a cabin in the woods is essentially a cottage on an island. So maybe I should try this. And the moment I thought outside the box about my screenplay, it happened. And it was a lot of work, and it was brutal, but it was so worth it. And I hope that you watch my movie when it is completed late this year. Thanks, everybody.